All right, training for a half marathon is hard. How many trips from your house to the Seattle Barkery would equal half a marathon for Lupin if he was training for a half marathon?
Um, oh goodness.
This
So
is like a
Seattle
math question.
Barkley.
Take out your
Vero.
calculator, Carly.
If the wind is blowing at 60 kilometers an hour.
Doom, doo doom, doom, doom.
Doom, doom, boom. Let's snoots, snoots, boom. Let's snoot. Welcome to Let's Boop Snoots. I'm Heidi.
And I'm Vero. And today we have a special episode. We have a special guest on the show. She is a dog lover, a dog owner. She is from Seattle and the creator of a super fun and informative weekly dog podcast that has been published for over 2 years and still going strong. Let's welcome the host of With a Dog podcast, Carly.
Hello.
Hi, Carly.
Hi, Carly.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming and joining us.
How are you today?
Good. Yeah, it's raining today. Surprise, surprise, Seattle. And but it's almost summer, so it was like we had a few sunny days. And then, of course, this holiday weekend was rainy. So, it just kind of a little bit of a downer, but that's okay. I've been just hanging out. I've had a bit of a duvet day and just relaxing in bed.
I love that.
Those are good days, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're the best. We were having a quick discussion before we started because Vero and I, and where we are located in Ottawa, Ontario, was under a little bit of an emergency situation with a tornado-like weather event that left our city in rough shape, which is why we didn't put out an episode last week.
God, I can only imagine.
When you got no power,
Yeah.
What a mess it was.
Yes.
But we're here and we're happy to be back.
You're here. I'm impressed that you guys went for it. I would have been like, no power, everything's going down. I'm one of those people, and I'm like, the slightest inconvenience, I'm like, oh, we should just give up.
I'm like happy to feel normal again. I'm like, internet, power, yes, I'm ready to rumble.
Yes, you can do laundry, turn on the dishwasher. Amazing.
It's the little things.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes, and Netflix. So, Carly.
Yes.
We are very excited to have you.
Yeah.
So, tell us a little bit about how you became a podcast host.
Okay. So, I love podcasts. I have been listening to podcasts for many years, and I have been working in the animal field since I got out of undergrad. And so it was vet hospitals and animal shelters and all of that kind of stuff. So I felt like I started to amass a lot of knowledge about being a dog parent or just caring for animals. And then I moved to London with my partner and my dog. And we just had the most amazing time traveling with my dog, like all of that. So it was kind of a mix of, I have all of this information that I know about caring for animals and things that to me, I'm like, yeah, obviously, as how should I phrase this? Like for me, it's little tips and tricks about being a dog parent that I just understood and knew from a young age because I worked with animals. But then people would question, they'd be like, oh, well, what is reactivity? When I would drop that word or something like that, or what's a long line? And I'm like, oh, like not everyone knows this stuff. And I was kind of like, wow, it'd be really nice if there was a podcast that talked about all of that and kind of spread that type of information, but then also talking about the life with a dog part, traveling together and, as I say in my little podcast intro, the 2 a.m. potty breaks and stuff like that. So I guess it started with my Instagram. I just was documenting my life as a shelter worker, and then kind of transitioned it when I moved to London, was more of traveling with my dog and stuff. And then when I moved back from London to Seattle, I was like, I want to start a podcast and pursue this more. So
awesome.
That's kind of how I got there, a roundabout way. But yeah.
That's awesome. It's all the little things that you don't think about when you're getting a dog. Like you said, the 2 a.m. potty breaks and just the little things that, I think when people think of getting a pet, it's like they think of all like the cute little things that are going to happen and how wonderful it's going to be. And they don't think about reactivity.
Yes.
The work that's involved in like
Yes.
training like a puppy or even bringing a new dog into your home, you know?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think that's probably one of the reasons that I've never gotten a puppy, because I'm like eyes wide open, like, oh my God, it's so much work.
Yes.
Like I could never.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's so much more, I think, to being a dog parent, as we all know, than just the cute Instagram reels and like, just like the fun
Big time.
parts.
But there's like a
Yeah.
huge, yeah, like you said, it's like a gap like in the knowledge, and like it spreads into so many different areas of being a dog owner. And one that I bring up like quite frequently on our show is even like the products that you buy for your dog. So going out, like I told the story in one of our first episodes when we were talking about like leashes and collars and stuff like that, and going through all the different ones and what you use them for and what it's helpful with and what to try, and the train. Like when you walk into a PetSmart and buy a prong collar, there's no instructions for use. There's nobody even there to really help you like fit it properly,
Mhm.
which are like,
Yes.
it's literally a requirement for the proper use of that tool. But there's like nothing there so like I agree with you. It's like important to spread information in whatever way that you can about like all these things.
Yeah, and think
Yeah,
about all of the money, at
I
least I
know.
know I have, that I've wasted just buying
Yes.
different products, trying to find something that
Mm-hmm.
works, whether it's a harness or like a, digestive supplement, because my dog has like a super sensitive stomach, and just like all of that until I finally figured it out. And I was like, I wish someone had told me that I should
Yes.
have done this from the get-go.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. On that note, can you tell us about your doggies?
Yes. So Lupin and Albus, those are Harry Potter names, for anyone who's like, those are weird. So Loopy and Albie is what we more call them. But Lupin is my OG. He's my old man. Probably like my, whatever that term is that people like, heart dog or like soul
Yes.
dog kind of. And yeah, so
Yeah.
he's, got him when I was 23, and he was probably like 4 at the time, 3 or 4, and so it was a rescue. But he's a purebred American foxhound, and is just like the most gorgeous dog in the whole world. Someone called him a gentleman the other day because he's
Aw.
old and he's like all gray in his face. I was like, that's the word. That's perfect. He's like this old gentleman. So yeah, so he is, and he's a big boy. He's pretty tall. He's about the size of like a
Mm-hmm.
greyhound.
Hmm.
And so he was my first guy. Now he's 11 or 12. He's had so many medical issues
Oh
throughout his
no.
life. He's had tons of emergency surgeries. He has Addison's disease. So I have
Oh
to
no.
give him like an
Steroids and
injection
stuff
every
like that. Yeah.
month and a
Yeah.
steroid every day. Yeah, so he like completely put me through the ringer as a first time dog mom. On top of that, he was, when we first got him, he was very behaviorally not great.
Yeah.
He was very fearful. That's what I should say. So he didn't have any like super big issues, but it was just like he came from a hoarding case, like out on a farm, and had only like he had never experienced life with
Anything.
humans.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was like everything was new to him, and he would get scared at everything, and he was really just a big gentle giant. But yeah, so we went through a lot of those hurdles like behaviorally, then we went through all the medical hurdles, and yeah, but he's also brought him to London with me, and was like, he's just such a trooper.
Was he your first dog?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, first dog. Because I at age 23 was like, look, I work at the vet and I work at, animal shelters. I can totally take this on. Like this very regressed dog. Like
Yeah.
he was very like, thank goodness for them for, willing to take a chance on me adopting him.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he was the first, and then yeah, moved internationally with us and back, and just such a trooper. Like, yeah, he's such a good boy. And then got Albus in May of 2020, and Albie's like the golden child. anything that Lupin put us through, like Albie would never, basically. he's just like came to us already. I mean, we think about like 5 years old when we rescued him. He's a coonhound mix. And just like you could tell he had a harder life. Like he has a couple like holes in his ears and like half of it's missing. He also had us a lot of buckshot actually still in his body from like
from hunting and stuff like that.
A wound, like a shotgun wound in his like. Don't know what the history of it is because he's still very, very much loving. Like he is the biggest snuggle monster. Loves every single human he meets, every animal he meets. Like, he's all good. Who knows what happened in his history? But he is just like the sweetest. He's so eager to please. You know, he's that typical when you hear dog. He's like dog, basically. You know? Like, he sits when you tell him to, like all of that. Whereas Lupin is like, you have to convince him.
Yeah. So it's a little bit more coaxing. yeah,
exactly. So, they're two really good boys, hound dogs, pretty lazy, which I like, and independent, which I also like. But they're good boys.
And did you get them, like, I know you rescued them both from the shelter that you were working at or different organizations or were...
So Lupin it was a shelter that I interviewed at and didn't get the job, but I was so in love with these dogs.
Yeah.
And I was interviewing for a job that was it was for like a kind of like animal investigative enforcement type of thing. And so you kind of like go out and investigate like animal cruelty cases. And I think they were like, we're not going to put this 22-year-old blonde girl with no law enforcement experience out onto the field. I was like, okay, fair, but can I have a dog?
We did not select you for the position, but here's a dog.
That's awesome.
If only every job application would go that way.
I'm going to propose that for my line of work.
So Lupin it was called Pasado Safe Haven. They're north of Seattle here. And they do great work for all animals, so all species, farm animals especially. And so they're really awesome. And then Albie, okay, I'm not gonna lie, I like pride myself on being a good judge of like rescues and shelters and all that kind of stuff. Everything seemed very above board with this one, but they have like zero online presence, which is slightly concerning.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I'm like, I really hope you weren't just like taken off the street and like shipped up to Seattle.
Man.
He as I said, everything seemed really above board. Like they did a thorough adoption application and he was with a foster family and stuff. And so he had come up from Texas, which is pretty common. We get a lot of shipments up from Texas to the Pacific Northwest. And I specifically wanted a hound dog. And so that's why they're, obviously a bit harder to find up here. So, so he was here and he was the first dog that we went to look at when we started looking for our second dog. And ended up being a good choice. So
why do they ship a bunch of dogs up from Texas? Is there a reason for that or?
Yeah, it's it's like overpopulation down there.
Okay.
And then up here, the adoptability of dogs is just a lot higher.
Oh, okay.
For whatever reason. So that's for whatever reason. I should rephrase. Many shelters throughout the U.S. do a lot of transfers like amongst each other throughout the U.S.
Exactly. And just to like spread out the volume and like.
Yeah, spread out the volume.
Yeah.
Even spread out the breeds too. Southern California has like tons of pit bulls and chihuahuas. Maybe they kind of are like, hey, we have only these two breeds in the shelter. Can we send some to you in New Jersey or like whatever? And so some shelters kind of have that relationship.
That's cool.
Cool. So Carly, what is your favorite and your least favorite thing about being a podcaster?
Okay. This is actually something I've been grappling a lot with lately. About a month ago, I celebrated my 2-year podcast anniversary, and which was very exciting. But I've been trying to make sure I reflect on like, how do I want to proceed and what do I want to do differently? And so the best thing about the podcasting by far is the interviews. So sitting down and talking with all of my guests, whether they're just a fellow dog mom or a professional, like a groomer or a veterinarian, it's just connecting with the people is like, that's my favorite thing. Like just sitting down talking to you guys. The fact that we're, like I've been able to talk to people in Australia and the UK and just like, around the US. And it's just really, really fun to sit down and have that connection with them for an hour. And I just love that. The stuff I don't like about podcasting is everything else as far as like advertising the episode on social media. And then
it's like all the chore work.
It is. It's the chore work
and
it's
background stuff that people don't know is going on.
Yes. And you think it would be easy, but for whatever reason in my brain, it just doesn't. I'm like, I just want to interview, and I edit my own episodes. So that used to be a part that I just absolutely hated. I've gotten it down a little bit better nowadays, so I'm okay with that. But I just want to like do the interview, edit it, and then post the episode. And then I want billions of people to find it magically.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then you're like, I have so many listeners.
Yeah.
People are enjoying my podcast.
Could everyone just take a listen, please? Like, I put a lot of work into this.
It was actually really funny. The other day, I reposted an archived episode, not really archived, just one that had been done. I think it was fall of 2020. And so I reposted or I re-uploaded that one just a couple of weeks ago because I was kind of on my vacation, and it was one that I thought people would really enjoy. And it is one of my highest downloaded episodes, like of the last 6 months. And I'm like, guys, I did this almost 2 years ago. Like I was like so bummed kind of about it because at the time it didn't get many, listens, obviously, because I was still growing. But then I reposted it and it got so many. And so I'm like, oh my gosh. Like so I think it's like sometimes that feeling is like the marketing and the why didn't this episode do as well? I thought it was amazing, and just those kind of emotions, I guess.
Yeah. And realizing all the like algorithms and like Instagram and all that, like the more you post, the more you show up, the more people see you. It's like you have this like fire underneath you where you're like, okay, I have to post. And I know like for us, like Let's Boop Snoots, we've been doing it for fun. Initially posting a lot, then, I was in school, Heidi's in school. So we kind of got away from the social media, and I'm getting back into it. And already I'm seeing like more listeners and more people. And it's just like, that's just amazing. How social media just helps you grow and
big time. It's like a must. Like I find like in like the media, like no matter what you're doing, like because I went to a theater school, like high school, so a lot of my friends like pursued like theater afterwards. And I remember like even and like I was pre like the smartphone and the Instagram and the Facebook and like all of that, right? But like all as they aged and were still pursuing like the theater life or whatever, even going for an audition, they were asking like, how many followers do you have like on your Instagram, or how many friends do you have on Facebook and stuff like that. So I think like in the whole like entertainment sort of like arena, that the social media is definitely like it comes with the package. Like you have to put in like the work to that aspect of it. And even like with a lot of the other trainers, like Solid Canine Training, like they're starting to offer like courses and information sessions on how to run that part of your business and how to grow it and stuff like that. So even like people are starting to incorporate it into their own separate niches, I find. So yes, the soch is real.
It's real. It is real. And it's such like a love-hate, because I find most of my guests on there. I come across their page, I'm like, that's so cool. And then and I connect with a lot of my listeners, of course, through DMs and comments and all of that. But then the other thing is like the fact that you have to post something every single day, as you were saying, is just like, oh my goodness.
It's more fun when it's like you like take a super cute photo of your dog and you're like, oh, this is gonna get like a ton of likes, and like you're excited to like post it. But like when it's like part of like your business aspect and it's like more like chore work, like it's like, okay, I gotta find a photo for this, okay, I gotta post this by Wednesday, okay, I gotta like, it's like it sort of takes the excitement out of it at a time.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So what do your friends and family think about you having a podcast?
I think, I mean, overall, everyone's pretty supportive. Or if they're not, they just don't say anything because, I'm a grown adult and, and I think they're kind of like, all right, if that's what you want to do. But when I first started it, there was definitely a lot of, maybe not a lot, but a few people / family members who were like, how do you make money at that? And like what is a like how do people find you and that kind of stuff. And so I did have to do a little bit of explaining how it all happens. And then of course pandemic hit right as I started the podcast. And so I kind of just put all of those details on hold as far as like making money and trying to get the name out because I mean, and you guys probably know, but like podcast listenership went down significantly because no one was commuting. But then also people starting podcasts skyrocketed. And so it was kind of hard for a little bit because I think my initial hopes for the podcast didn't quite hit the mark. And it wasn't necessarily just because of the pandemic, but I was like a year in, and then those same friends and family were kind of like, so is it working? I'm like, well, like the podcast is going and I'm loving it and all of that. But, at the end of the day, people still come back to like the money question. And so I think that's sometimes a little bit hard to field from friends and family.
Yeah.
But otherwise, everyone's been like really supportive as far, listening. And even my grandma listens and, and tries to keep up with all of it and stuff. So that's been just so sweet, like everyone's support.
That's awesome.
I find like we work like in healthcare. I think we mentioned it a couple of times before and stuff like that. So whenever I find it's like a very separate like way of life, right? Like scientifically, like rational, like beings who probably listen to podcasts like on their way to and from work, but they're like, you have a podcast? Like, that's like what I get a lot of the time. They're like, you have a pod, like, and then they're like, when do you have time to do this? And I'm just like, every Sunday, like, and just sort of chat with them about it. And then like, there's the my mom, who whenever we are in public together, like, and sometimes we hit up like a pet store, we run into somebody with a super cute dog. She's like, and this is my daughter Heidi, and she has a podcast called Let's Boop Snoots. Do you want me to write it down for you? And
that's
just
so
like, Mom,
great.
stop.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely the thing. People are like, you have a podcast? And then you have to be like, it's a dog podcast. And no one, I feel like people rarely know how to react to that. Maybe if it's a fellow dog mom, they're like, oh, that's super cool. But I think what comes to mind for a lot of people is just me like sitting on my couch talking about my dog or something. And I'm like, that's not, or some kind of PBS, kid friendly, do woof woof,
puppies,
like kind of thing.
like,
yeah, exactly.
Squeaky, squeaky.
Yeah. So I think sometimes describing it, especially to new people, is kind of hard. I think it's also, sorry, I'm going to go off on this tangent. Different people like different types of podcasts,
Yeah.
So that was really interesting to get a lot of feedback from friends and family of what I should do with the podcast. Because, my listeners would be like, we want longer episodes, 40 minutes, we want an hour or something like that. And my mom's like, you should cut it down to 30 minutes. And, and so it's just like everyone likes a different type. Some people just like really informational, quick 30-minute informational type of things. Other people like the 2-hour fun, comedic, let's go on a journey kind of thing. So it's that was kind of, or it still is kind of funny when people give me recommendations or suggestions. It's always welcome, but sometimes it's like, I don't know if that's my style, but thanks.
Yeah.
I find so too.
Yeah.
I was like, there was even like, there was one, it was funny because when it came up, like when I was at work, there was this like one physician who's like a straight like business, like sort of dude or whatever. So like he approached me afterwards and he's like, so, you have a podcast about dogs? And I was like, yeah. And then now we talk dogs all the time because he got this new black lab and he shows me his dog photos all the time. And I'm like, this is awesome.
That's great.
That's awesome.
Yeah. That's interesting. I haven't gotten feedback from anybody. I haven't.
Me neither. But that's okay.
Yeah.
How do you do that? That's
We'll
great.
just keep doing our thing. And
My family's very good at giving feedback.
Oh.
I could send them your way. They're very good.
I was going to say.
feedback is welcomed.
Yeah.
So, Carly, you mentioned interviewing for this like investigative position. You also wanted to become an animal rights lawyer. Tell us more about that.
Back in the day. The time that I discovered I wanted to go into the pet or like animal industry was probably like midway through my undergrad. I, as most college students, didn't know what they wanted to do with their life, and that was me. And so I was just like, what do I want to do? I have this like biology major, but I don't really want to become a scientist. Pre-med started looking a little like, I don't know about that either. and so I was just, I started taking some animal behavior courses and just loved them. And so I started taking a little bit more like on the zoology track for my degree. And at the same time, I started volunteering at the Oregon Humane Society, which was not far off or not far away from my university. And it was just so amazing to volunteer there. And I got involved with the investigative unit that they have. It's actually, oh goodness, their department has a specific name that I'm going to botch. I've actually even interviewed them about this, and now I'm forgetting it. But basically, they worked with they had an attorney on staff who was like the animal rights attorney, and they would investigate the cases, put all the evidence together, like this department at the shelter, and then since it's usually a public case, it would then be taken by like the public defender or prosecutor to court. And so being involved, volunteering in that department was just like so empowering, the work that they were doing, because not only would they, investigate these cases of animal cruelty, but they would also be rehabilitating those same animals in the shelter at the same time. And so it was just so powerful to see kind of like the before and after of a lot of these dogs. And or
do you have like
animals.
an example? Like, is this like people would report like, hey, I'm noticing this like at this house or whatever, or like a house full of cats and it smells really bad, and was it this type of stuff?
Yeah, exactly. It was like animal cruelty, whether it was like actual physical abuse, or it was some kind of like hoarding situation. And this department really was the leader and is still one of the leading units of like animal cruelty rehabilitation, as well as like investigation and stuff like that in the country. And I just happened to have fallen into their lap.
That's awesome.
And they're actually just opening up a forensic unit as well as part of their new facility. And I know,
I want to work
everyone
there.
go listen to my episode with them, because they're amazing. Oregon Humane Society. So that it was just it was a lot of kind of seeing the before and after of a lot of dogs that may have been horrendously physically abused, or it could have been maybe they just weren't being very well taken care of. The owners fell on hard times, and then they got like a plea deal or something, like it was kind of a whole range of things. And so then I fell into not working with, but kind of I got a lot of resources and got connected with a lot of other organizations that do the same work. So like the Animal Legal Defense Fund, and then also I believe it's Lewis and Clark Law School in Portland. They also have one of the leading like animal rights law programs in the country. I think the other one is in Vermont, I believe. And so, so I kind of just got involved with all this stuff. Lo and behold, then, I got out of my undergrad, already had a lot of debt, was kind of still waffling. So I did not end up becoming an animal rights lawyer. I had a lot of people tell me like that may not be what I want it to be. I had these grand designs of like helping like the world's animals, and and but when it comes down to it, the realities of being a lawyer itself is a lot of paperwork and a lot of that kind of stuff that I was like, I don't know if that is what I want to pursue. So I took a beat, then found just working at a shelter was something that gave me that same sense of empowerment and love. And I was able to kind of express those interests just working in the animal industry in general. So
Okay, I have to ask this question. I just absolutely have to. I would love to go and work at a shelter. I would love to work with, like, kids in a certain capacity and stuff like this, but I feel like my heart would be broken like every day. Like, how do you work in a shelter and not come home with like 20 dogs?
it's so interesting. I think I would feel very differently if I was a volunteer versus an employee.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think you guys can probably relate to this in healthcare. It's like you just do the job,
Yes.
kind of.
Yeah.
You don't see like all of the other stuff of, and of course you still get super excited, like, oh, so and so's going home. They've been here for months, or
Yeah.
roll your eyes when yet another person comes in, like, I want a puppy, and you're like, oh, okay, which is fine. Like, no judgment for anyone who wants a rescue, but you or a lot of families are coming, I want the mid-size, 3 years old, good with kids, good with cats, good with everyone. You're like, well, okay. And so,
Designer dog.
I think there's sometimes, I'm not gonna lie, in the animal industry, you can get a bit jaded and lose that love for people.
Yes.
And you can get a little bit of a black, kind of dark sense of humor as well.
Yes.
So yeah, I think it's probably very similar. One of my best friends is a NICU nurse and does amazing work, but I'm the same way. Like, I'm like, oh, like the babies, like, how do you just not, like, your heart doesn't break every day? And she's like, you just do the job at the end of the day. And so that's kind of how it is. But I think if I was a volunteer, I would have a harder time because I'd just be going in there with like a heart full of love, being like,
so what is the difference between like a volunteer working and then like an actual shelter work? Like, I can imagine some of the tasks are obviously different. Like, you're not going to ask a volunteer to like give meds and stuff like that. Like, are you, or no?
No, exactly. Every shelter operates a little bit differently with what they have their volunteers do. Most of the time the volunteers are walking the dogs. Sometimes they do like light cleaning of the kennels, but it's not like the big clean. And there's a ton of laundry, a ton of meal prep.
Yeah.
Just cleaning of the facility in general, kind of like keeping it nice for the people, for all the patrons walking in, stuff like that. They also, at my shelter, they would help people find, oh, you're looking for Rufus, let me show you where he is down this hall, or that kind of thing. So it's a mix of behind the scenes as well as on hand. Sometimes I'll just sit in the kennel with a dog if they're a bit scared or maybe they're not eating, kind of just like hand feeding them or something like that. So that would be the volunteer in my experience. The employees do all of that, but like to another level.
Yeah.
Just kind of, they, like, if you have like a parvo case, they're doing like the full-on bleach and behind the scenes, and they're intaking all of the animals, doing all of the paperwork, registration, giving the vaccines, checking for microchips, things like that. So like my day, usually what it would look like, I'd go in at like 6 a.m. We'd clean all the kennels while the volunteers were taking them out for walks at the same time. So it's kind of this like nice symbiotic relationship. So volunteers got the nice thing of just like walking the animals, and I'm there like,
you're like madly
sweating,
cleaning, like, and like, yes.
Like, oh great, this dog apparently had diarrhea everywhere last night. So like doing all of that, and then at like noon we would switch over, and that's when the shelter would open, and then I would be front facing with the customers, kind of just helping out. So that was kind of like adoption advisor job, and then I moved into a little bit more like program management stuff as well, which was more like intaking and working with people who were looking for specific animals and stuff.
Okay. I was going to ask, I feel like I'm focusing on this a bit too much. I just want to ask you
this
so many
fun.
questions, Carly.
Honestly, I never get to talk about this. So yeah, feel free.
Like, did they have like educational programs and stuff like that too? Like, I know that ours does here, like in our city, they do like summer camps for kids and stuff where they teach them animal safety and like those types of things as well.
Yes. So they do they do have stuff like that. That was actually, I interviewed one of my, at the shelter I worked at, animal educator. Gosh, I think it was episode like 5.
Mm-hmm.
It was, yeah, it was such a great interview with her. And so they do have those kind of programs. They have like events and outreach, and the shelter I worked at also had a wildlife component. So there was
Oh,
like a whole other
nice.
facility. They worked with them.
Ooh.
So yeah, it was, I mean, as I said, bit of a dark sense of humor, and get a bit jaded. But we called them like the people of the carpet land, because they were in the part of the office that had carpet, or part of the facility that was allowed to have carpet. Because obviously we were on hands with the dogs who were muddy and were messy ourselves, and
Yeah.
you get like dog food smeared down the side of your jeans. At least you hope that's what it is. And so like the educators and the events, program people and outreach and stuff, they got to be where the carpet was. And we were like on the vinyl floors.
I love that. That's
Yeah.
so funny. Amazing.
But we all got along and stuff still. Like
Yeah.
everyone was still on good terms.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
So Carly, what advice would you give someone who wants to start a dog podcast?
Oh goodness. I would just say, one, go for it. Like, do
Mhm.
it. Like, if it's something you are interested in. I put off doing the podcast for years, and it's I don't want to say it's a big regret, but it is something that I think about a little bit and kick myself about. Just like, oh, you should have just done it. It didn't have to be perfect. You should have just started. And because I had the idea for the podcast in 2018, and then didn't start until 2020. And so, that's how, I was busy with other things in life at the time. So it was okay. But yeah, one, just like start, go for it. Two, I think, just like we all three are sitting here, is focus on community rather than competition. And, so don't look at other fellow podcasters, or specifically dog podcasters, as your competition. There are other people just enjoying what they're doing and trying to put something out in the world. And like, more of your niche is never going to be a bad thing. More people having these great podcasts and talking about them is never going to be a bad thing. And so I think that's something that I would probably tell people too, because podcasting can be very isolating. It's great to connect with guests and stuff like that, but it can also be very, if you're editing your own episodes and trying to market and stuff like that, it can be really hard. So yeah, that's what I would say. Just go for it. Do your research. If you want to start a podcast in general, personally, I love Buzzsprout. They have a lot of resources for first-time people. And yeah, 2, community, not competition.
Absolutely.
And yeah.
I agree with you on that. And we've been like so lucky so far, in that like anyone we've reached out to has been like, sure, yeah, let's do it. So I don't know if it's just like
so
dog
nice.
people who are like cool.
Yeah. I'm so surprised. Same thing. Like, I'm like, oh, yes, really? Oh, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know when I was trying to come up, because my boyfriend had a podcast and I was like, I want one too. And it was just like, what would be my topic? Like, what would be the podcast about? And I thought about dogs for sure. But then I started researching and I'm like, well, there's already so many. But then as you listen to the different ones, they're all like a little bit different, and they bring something different when you listen to them. So yeah,
exactly.
Just like make it your own.
Exactly. Or even like a different perspective on the same topic. That's something that maybe you didn't think of or whatever too, right? Like that's what is like the most awesome about having discussions and interviews and reaching out and talking to all these different people, is like, it's like, oh, cool. Like you learn like a lot. Like in one of our first episodes, we were talking about the different like areas of specialized training for dogs. And a friend of mine from like elementary school is like training her dog to be a search and rescue dog. And she like had all this information on her page. She guided me in the direction of this, that, and the other thing. We never ended up hooking up for like a time to like actually podcast or whatever, but she was like so grateful in all the resources, and I didn't even know. And she was telling me about this like new area. where dogs can sniff in water, like do water searches. So they put them on the edge of a boat.
What?
Yeah, and they can, and like judging, like using like physics and other scientific whatever, when the dog barks, they look at like trend, like water trends and stuff, and can find like bodies and stuff like that, like further up the way or whatever. And I was just like,
That's insane.
how cool is that?
That is so cool.
How cool is that? So you just
Yeah.
like learn like so much more too, I find. So I
Mhm.
truly agree with the community aspect of things.
Yeah,
Big time.
Yes.
agreed.
All right. It's a rapid fire question time.
Okay.
We're going to put Carly in the hot seat just a little bit.
I will try not to go on my long tangents.
So with all of our guests, at the end of the episode, we have a few fun questions to ask. So here we go, Carly.
Okay.
So at the beginning of your podcast, you describe Lupin as handsome, lazy, and stubbornly happy. Now, over 100 episodes later, if you were asked the same question, would you still say the same?
Oh, goodness. That's such a good question. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, he's the same. He's been the same since day one. He's just
You could add
still so
gentleman
handsome.
to it.
Yes, a
Happy,
handsome
lazy
gentleman.
gentleman.
The handsome has slightly aged, so he's still just absolutely adorable. But he's got that little frail, like old man look to him a little bit more. But lazy. You know what? Actually, I would take back the lazy. He's always been lazy until I thought he was supposed to be an old dog, and he was supposed to be like tired and not. But he has been so active, which is obviously something I'm very happy about. But yeah, he's been very active these last couple years, and I'm like,
That's good.
I thought, yeah, like it's very good. He's very healthy, which is
Yeah.
great. But I was like, what? I'm just like, what is this? Why are you jumping on my bed at 6:30 in the morning? Like you've never done that in your entire life. Like now you've decided. So yeah, that's funny. I think my only guess is it's Albie. He has a bit of extra competition and pep in his step. In the house now.
Keeping him young.
Yes, which is one of the reasons we got Albie, so it's good.
You recently-ish bought a house. Congratulations. Rough guess, if you could, how many clones of Albus could you fit inside your new house?
Oh my goodness. Okay.
I wouldn't even know where to start, but...
No, I wouldn't even know, but the only thing that came to mind is like the clones of Albus would probably only be willing to sleep on like a comfy bed or a couch or a chair. So like you rarely will find him sleeping on the floor. Gosh forbid. So now I'm just thinking of all the places that the dogs would go. Let's say like 40.
All right.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. The next is a riddle. A blend of bold, rich, infused with a tangy and bittersweet minty flavor. What am I?
Oh my gosh. Okay, can you repeat it?
A blend of bold, rich, infused with a tangy and bittersweet minty flavor. What am I?
Is it dog related at all?
No.
Oh gosh, it's just
What?
It's just something
It's something you mention that you really like.
that I really like.
A mint julep? Can I play?
Oh, I mean, I love mint chip ice cream.
Yes.
Is that okay? I was like, oh gosh.
Vero did her
It could be
research.
anything. It could be literally anything. Me talking about food.
All
That was a
right.
good one.
If the sorting hat from Harry Potter had to choose one of the four houses, Gryffindor, Hufflepuff, Ravenclaw, and Slytherin for Lupin and Albus, which houses would they be?
Okay. Albus is definitely Gryffindor. He's that like good boy,
He's your man.
all American vibes. Yeah. Quarterback kind of guy, kind of dog. That's him to a T. Lupin is gonna have to be like Slytherin or Ravenclaw.
Oh.
He's very smart, but only in a very self-serving way, which makes me think Slytherin. He's just like, he's not smart enough for me to be like, sit and he'll do it. Not in that way. He's smart as in like I'm going to go get mom when Albie's sitting in my seat. Like, like it's like
Yes.
things that are just
Yeah.
very self-serving. So I feel like he's probably Slytherin, but I think that's what I love about him.
Yeah.
he's a little conniving. I love that.
Yes. London is such a different place than Seattle, from the culture to the lanes that you drive your cars on. Is it true there's a 2-ton troll living underneath a Seattle bridge?
Yes, in
Yes.
Fremont. I have a picture, I think, way back on my Instagram, probably like 2016 or 17, of Lupin with that troll.
Oh yeah,
in Seattle. Yeah, it has like the old Instagram filters on it and everything. It's very like moody. Yes, big old troll. In Seattle, Fremont Troll. I should go back there. I've been in my little bubble lately. I haven't explored Seattle very much.
I've never even heard of this troll. I'm loving it.
Yes, it's like carved kind of like in and under an overpass, kind of. It's like a funky, weird Seattle thing.
I love it.
I have to go see it when I go to Seattle. Word on the street is that you have a thing for Hugh Dancy. Could you rate these Hugh Dancy films from the worst to best? A lot of emphasis on the Hugh Dancy scenes, if you know what I mean. The Jane Austen Book Club, Confessions of a Shopaholic, and Ella Enchanted.
Ooh. Am I rating Hugh Dancy in each of these, or am I rating the movies?
Let's say Hugh Dancy.
Okay. Now that I think about it, maybe they would all be in the... They're all I love a rom-com, so they're all up there. Jane Austen Book Club, though not really a rom-com, for some reason has a special place in my heart. I don't know why. I'm originally from Sacramento. It was set and I think filmed there, so maybe that's it. / I love Jane Austen. But so probably Jane Austen Book Club, Ella Enchanted, Confessions of a Shopaholic.
Ella Enchanted was amazing. It was.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like, as I said, Jane Austen Book Club is top. But then like Isla Fisher and Anne Hathaway and the other two, like those are like even, I feel like. Yeah. So everyone's going to judge me with the Jane Austen Book Club thing. I feel like putting that on top. The other two are very good, but for some reason that one is just like a comfort movie. I mean, it's got Emily Blunt. It's a good cast. Yeah.
I'm the worst at remembering movies. So I feel like I've watched these, but I don't remember. Like, you can ask Heidi. Like, I don't remember any scenes from any movies. It's awful.
We'll have to rewatch.
It's like a new movie every time.
Yeah, dude. That's actually really nice.
Yes.
I feel like I've run out of rom-coms lately, like good ones, because I've just watched them all too much.
Yes.
All right. Training for a half marathon is hard. How many trips from your house to the Seattle Barkery would equal half a marathon for Lupin if he was training for a half marathon?
Oh, goodness.
This is like a math question.
Take out your calculator, Carly.
If the wind is blowing at 60 kilometers an hour.
These are great. I think Seattle Barkery it's a drive, but I would say it's only a few miles from me. Probably like 3, maybe. Or even like 2. So there's we can go a lot of trips. I think 2 is probably the max that Lupin would 2.5 maybe miles is about the max Lupin would ever walk at one point, though.
So he's doing the 10K.
Yeah, he's definitely going a little less. But yeah, so we could do quite a few there and backs. You can get a new treat each time.
Yeah, a little slower every time.
Yeah,
with the treats. Being a Marvel superhero fan, if Iron Man, Thor, and Captain America were to be recasted as dog actors, which dog breed would play them?
Oh my goodness.
Ooh.
Okay. This is hard. Okay, I feel like the Golden Retriever has got to be Thor.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Just, they look, they
Yeah.
look like that, and they often do like the funny things. I feel like Thor, out of all of the superheroes, has really good like comedic timing, and his
Yeah.
movies are a little bit funnier and stuff too.
Yeah.
Or Chris Hemsworth in general just has
Yeah.
great comedic timing. And then Chris Evans, so Captain America. I feel like that's what I think of when I say like Albie, like he's the quarterback, like he's just some kind of like mutt,
Mhm.
but just like all American mutt, quote
What
unquote.
about like a German
That makes
Shepherd?
sense.
Ooh, maybe a
That could
G-Shep.
work.
Yeah.
That could work.
Or like a lab. Like a German Shepherd lab mix.
Oh, yeah.
A mutt.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Like that's what, some
Yeah.
kind of like mix mutt thing that just looks very like, I can do it all. I'm athletic,
Earnest.
but I'm also the family dog. And
Yes.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
Iron Man.
and then RDJ. Oh my goodness, Iron Man. Because you have to get really smart breed.
Yes.
They're also pretty good looking. Like they also
and also
have,
very,
do have
very
the-
like cocky too. Like,
Yeah.
Yes. And that's what I'm trying to figure out.
I have an answer for this one. I want to hear yours first, though.
Oh gosh. Wait, well, no, I want to hear yours.
You want to hear mine?
Yes.
I was gonna say Doberman.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
I could see that. Yeah, I could see that. Yeah.
I don't know. I was just
Little
gonna throw
cocky,
that out there.
Yeah, like strut their stuff kind of thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like
but
that.
he's also a little bit funny too. I don't know if Dobermans are funny per se, but
Yeah.
yeah, that's a tough one.
It is a tough one.
Doberman. Yeah.
I like it.
We'll stick to it.
Yeah.
All right. So our last question is kind of like one of our boop or snoot game. So boop is yes, we like it. And no is we turn our snoots up to it as a no.
Snoot.
Okay.
So you've recently rebranded your shows. Here are some doggy daycares in Seattle. Can you give a boop or a snoot if you approve of these names?
Okay.
Dog City Club. Simple.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like a snoot. It's a little, I don't know. Is snoot like blah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, it's a little blah, but I'm sure they do great work.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, is it creative or it's not creative? Still works, but
Yeah.
maybe not
Yeah,
as
it
works.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dogtopia of Harbor Steps.
Of Harbor's Dogtopia. I like Dogtopia. That's cute. Yeah.
Boop.
It's cute. I feel like the branding could be cute. A little like, I'm picturing like a city of dogs. Yeah.
Yeah.
Boop.
Lazy Dog, Crazy Dog.
I like that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a boop. Yeah, that's cute.
Yeah.
Tails a Wagon, Dog and Cat Inn.
Okay, they tried. They tried to get the rhyme in there. I would have to say a snoot though.
Dog's Day Out.
I like that. That's
yeah. It's like short.
I think that's a boop.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah. You know you get the gist of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Growlers, Seattle.
Oh. Okay.
I kind of like growlers. It's kind of funny. But...
I like it from the point of like Seattle is obviously really big on their beer and there's a lot of craft brewery stuff. So you get a growler, so I like that aspect of it. I also sometimes get really nervous when people make light of like dog reactivity, like growling,
Yeah.
So like, but obviously
when
they
it's
know
a
what they're
name of a
doing,
business.
like,
Yeah,
it's just-
exactly. Yeah.
So I'm kind of like, eh.
And I don't know like what the business is. Is it somewhere where you can bring your dog and
Have a beer?
beer?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Then
yeah,
it would be
exactly.
like,
Because
boo.
then it would be really good if it's like a
Yeah.
brew pub / dog sitting kind
So
of,
depending on the
Yes.
the company. Bones, Hugs, and Harmony Pet Care.
Oh no.
that is
They sound like
that's a boot from me. I'm sorry, but like I love Bone Thugs and Harmony. That's like a 90s like jam, man. Like
Bones, I see
Hugs.
that.
Bones, Hugs, and Harmony.
And Harmony Pet Care.
Oh my god, I love it. It's a boop from me, folks.
It's a snoot for me. It sounds like they call their dogs like fur babies or something.
It's too it's like almost too cute.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Welcome to Bones, Hugs, and Harmony Pet Care.
Yeah.
All right, next one. Strut the pup.
Strut the pup.
Strut the pup.
That's okay.
cute.
Yeah, that's a boop. Yeah.
Boop.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it'd be cute if it was like a grooming salon
Yes.
or something.
Mm.
I'm picturing like
Or
strutting down
dog-
the runway.
Oh yeah, maybe. Yeah, that works too. I was thinking more like
yeah.
a dog walking service. Strut
Yeah.
the pup.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Both work.
Central bark.
Oh, I like that. Like Central Perk,
Yeah.
kind of is my guess.
And do you want to know what?
Yeah.
I think we have one called that here in our city too. Because I remember driving past it and being like, clever. Nicely
That is
done.
clever. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah.
Yep.
Boop. Fuzzy Buddies, dog daycare, and dog.
I'd say snoot.
It's
probably.
a snoot for me, dog.
Yeah.
It's too long. Snoot. And our last one, House of Rough.
I like that.
I like
I
that
like
one.
that. Yeah.
Boop. Boop.
Yeah,
Boop.
boop.
Oh, that's it.
Naming things is hard. Naming dogs is hard. Naming your dog podcast is hard. Like,
Mhm.
Yeah. I love yours. I think it's like it gets the word or it gets the message across, but it's not anything that I've like seen before either.
see, I wasn't and I wasn't sure because people don't always not everybody's familiar with the terminology of like booping the snoot, like boop
Yeah.
the snoot. So like even like my mom, right? Like she was like, "What? Let's snoots, boops, what?" Like she couldn't get it. So we'll see, but.
Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you so much again for joining us. I think that wraps up this episode. Carly, we super appreciate taking the time to come and have a chat with us. It was a blast and a half. I'm definitely going to go back and listen to some of those episodes that you mentioned because they sound super interesting. And thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you,
well, thank
Carly.
you both. Yeah. Thank you guys so much. It was so nice to connect with you guys, and thank you for letting me go on my tangents and talk about everything. It's really fun sometimes to be on the other side of the mic and being interviewed, being a guest. So thank you so much for that opportunity. And it was nice to hang out with you guys for a bit.
No
Well,
problem.
thank you very much. You can find and listen to Carly from With the Dog podcast on Spotify and iTunes, and you can also follow her on Instagram at With the Dog podcast.
Join us next week on
Let's
Boop
Boop Snoots.
Snoots. Boop.